Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll start in English this time. No other languages. We came together today with one clear objective, and that was to find a credible and immediate solution to Ukraine's urgent financing needs. Supporting Ukraine is not charity. It is the most important investment we can make in our own security. There was never any debate about whether we would help. The only real question was how we should help. Let me be very clear about what was at stake. If Europe had walked away today without an agreement, we would not only have failed Ukraine, we would have failed ourselves. This is a brutal war. It's a war on our own continent. A democratic nation is fighting for its survival, and the security architecture of Europe is at stake here. Had we left Brussels divided today, Europe would have walked away from geopolitical relevance. It would have been a total disaster. And we would have sent a message to the world that Europe can no longer deliver anything. And that would also be a strategic disaster. We have arrived at a solution that everyone can stand behind. Okay? It took us a little bit of time. This is Europe. But today, everybody can leave this meeting room victoriously. I think Ukraine has won. It received the urgent, predictable and reliable financing it needs for the next 2 years based on an EU borrowing on the capital markets backed by the EU budget headroom. This is not a fragile construct. This is a stable, legally robust and financially credible European solution. It is chartered waters we are sailing, and that is essential to keep Ukraine in the fight, to ensure continuity and to protect Europe's commitment to Ukraine in the long term. The immobilized assets will be kept immobilized and will ultimately be used to repair the damage Russia has caused through its unprovoked and unjustified war against Ukraine. I think nobody in the European family wants to see that money return to Moscow, but we're going to return to the original philosophy. It is going to be used to repair the damage that Russia has caused in Ukraine. So I think Ukraine has won. They have their finance, and they still have the perspective of getting reparation money. I think Europe has won, and financial stability has certainly won. We avoided chaos, we avoided division. Europe stayed united, and unity today means that Europe remains relevant at the geopolitical table. Fragmentation would have meant weakness and irrelevance, and we avoided that. We protected Europe's economic and financial credibility. Confidence is essential in that. It is fragile, and once damaged, financial confidence is very hard to restore. Today's decision safeguards trust in European institutions, markets and the euro. And that is vital if we want Europe to remain competitive and able to finance future priorities. We also reinforced fairness inside the European Union. Today, we proved that the voice of small and medium-sized member states also counts. Decisions in Europe are not simply driven by the biggest capitals of institutions. They are collective. They are fair, and they respect legitimate national concerns. I think financial stability also has won today. With today's decision, Euroclear remains a stable, credible, trusted cornerstone of the global financial system. We avoided risking its reputation, its liquidity position, its rating standing and its ability to fulfill its responsibilities in the global markets. That matters for Belgium, but that also matters for Europe and for global financial stability. I think also international law has won today. We avoided stepping into a precedent that risks undermining legal certainty worldwide. We safeguarded the principle that Europe respects law even when it is hard, even when we are under pressure. And we delivered a strong political signal. Europe stands behind Ukraine, Europe remains united, Europe acts responsibly, and Europe still matters. And I am proud that we have been able to contribute to this outcome by being constructive, firm and responsible. And that was it for the statement. Are there any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, hello, Prime Minister José Luis Moreira with Euronews. Today you received a very detailed compromise by the European Commission and the European Council addressing your concerns that you have raised and that we all know. We know that in that text, the phrase included was uncapped guarantees, which is something that you were looking after. Was this the trigger that freaked out the other leaders, or was there anything else? Because something happened with that compromise was put on the table. There was a bad reaction from the other leaders. So what happened that the other leaders who wanted the reparations loan saw that and said, okay, let's not do that? Thank you.
This is not actually what happened. We worked with the Commission, with our legal team, our financial experts, to make a text on which a reparation loan scheme could be based, which is not easy because there are many loose ends, there are many financial and legal risks to it. So writing a text that covers the entire operation is not that easy. The uncapped part where you are referring to was never in the text, it was in between brackets. It was the last point between brackets that still had to be decided. So it wasn't in the text, it was a point to decide. It had nothing to do with the reparation loan in itself. The idea of putting the money in a debt instrument and giving it to Ukraine is something that needs to be guaranteed by the member states. And if enough member states offer a guarantee based on the GNI key, and together you achieve a minimum of 75% of the loan, of the amount you wanted to loan, you could go ahead with the reparation loan. The uncapped part has to do with something else. It has to do with the mutualization of the legal risk. You have the loan, that's one thing. But of course, you have legal risks of judicial procedures. There's a BIT, and you can have arbitrage. And even if you annul your BIT, you can still have 16 years of arbitrage. And of course, if you are subjected to that, the amount that can be asked from you will be higher than the nominal figure in the account. For example, there is a case in Luxembourg where an oligarch, Mr. Friedman, not about immobilized but about a frozen asset, he has 8 billion, if I'm not mistaken, in frozen assets. He's claiming Luxembourg for 16. And this is where the uncapped part comes in. You don't know how big the claim is going to be on Euroclear. Even if Belgium annuls its BIT with Russia, the Belgian-Luxembourg BIT, Russia can still go to court for 16 years, and they will probably, as they already announced, sue us for much more than the 185 billion in immobilized assets. They will probably go for a much higher figure. How high will it be? You don't know. But that's the risk, the legal risk you are under. And therefore, we proposed to say, if you do a mutualization, everybody asks, what is the end? What is the figure? What do I have to insure? What do I have to mutualize? I say, I cannot tell you. The future will tell us. The next 16 years will tell the tale. And so I proposed to say, let's make it uncapped. That's not limitless, but it will be the figure that it will be. And of course, many member states are nervous about words like uncapped, because if you have to explain before Parliament that you do the mutualization and that the mutualization was for an uncapped amount, I can imagine that it is hard to explain. But of course, as it was still between brackets, we were willing to negotiate about this, maybe compromise about this. But to tell you the truth, sir, there were so many other questions and so many other things when they were clarified by reading the text. A legal text makes some things very clear on implication, financial and legal, that this was not the decisive element. It was an element that everybody mentioned, you are right, and probably they will, if they give you an overview of the debate, they will mention the uncapped part, but it's certainly not true that this was the essential thing that made the reparation loan sink, certainly as it was between brackets. So it wasn't even a certain element in the proposal. It was the only element between brackets. So a bracket means if you table a proposal with brackets that it has to be decided. I hope this was clear. I know it's one, it is late. Two, it is very technical, and three, I'm very, very tired. So I hope it was still more or less clear. We'll go to the next gentleman, then the nice lady, and then you, and then you.
Thank you very much. Jack Parrott with DW. It sounds from your opening statement that you're done with this now, that this discussion around the reparations loan and the frozen assets is done. Is that the case? Can we come back to this in January, February, so on and so forth? And also, you mentioned in your opening statement winning a lot. We won this, we won that. Do you feel like a winner? Do you feel like Belgium has won in this issue, that this is for you a big diplomatic win?
I think in my opening statement I said I think Ukraine has won, Europe has won, financial stability has won. I don't think I mentioned myself as a winner. Maybe at the end just a little bit, because I contributed to finding a solution for Ukraine, which was of the essence. We couldn't leave here without a solution for Ukraine. That would have been the end of us, of all our geopolitical relevance. But I haven't talked in terms of winning and losing. Is the reparation loan off the table? I think the text is very, very good, because it mentions, of course, that we have no intention whatsoever of giving the immobilized assets back to Putin. We have no intention of letting somebody else outside Europe decide about this. They have been immobilized for an indefinite period. It is the Europeans who will decide what happens to it, and our intention is to give it to Ukraine as the reparation. It's a reparation loan. The word says it itself. It serves to reparate what has been done to you by the aggressor. And that idea is still in the text, and I'm 100% behind it. An idea that I didn't like very much, but that I try to put in a legal text, is to already during the war take the money and in a, I cannot call it a confiscation, but it looked like a confiscation, to put it in a look-alike confiscation scheme, because legally it's too risky. It opens up a lot of financial uncertainty and legal risks that are just too hard to manage. And I think finally, with the discussion, we took a lot of hours, everybody realized this.
So you're not willing to discuss this in the new year?
I'm poor little Belgium. I'm willing to discuss anything you like, sir. Anything you like. Bring it on. And I'll discuss about it. The lady.
Thank you, Laura. You work for the Financial Times. You say the reparations loan might not come back.
I never said that. The nice gentleman just mentioned that he wants to talk about it in January already. I don't think this is realistic. You have to know, we took a decision for 2 years. Huh? The headroom decision is not for 6 months or a year. It's 26, 27, 28. Of course, the new multi-annual framework kicks in, and everybody around the table has the idea. We all hope the war will be over with an acceptable peace for Ukraine. But in 2028, when the war is still going on, it will probably be a structural element in the new multi-annual framework. So if we've bridged the 2 years to the multi-annual framework, we don't need a reparation loan anymore. If we could get it done, it's something on the side. But in any case, the money stays immobilized, and the money will go eventually to Ukraine.
However, Euroclear already faces a legal claim by Russia, which is quite high. You don't have any national guarantees now from your fellow member states. How are you going to deal with this? How will you help Euroclear if this money is seized after all?
I'm not too worried about Russian claims in Russian courts. They will not be executable in the European Union. That's also something we're quite clear on, because Russia is not a rule of law state. If they want to seize assets in Russia, they probably will, and they can launch a lot of litigation. That's a form of intimidation. They have many forms of intimidation. The hybrid warfare of Russia with the drones and the cyber attacks and the damaging of critical infrastructure and the litigation. That's all part of an intimidation scheme, and we're not going to back down for that. That plays in my head no role. And I don't give them a very good chance against Euroclear, because Euroclear stays exactly in line with international law. If you go to war, your sovereign assets are immobilized until the end of the war, and then there's a peace treaty, and then there is a settlement on this. This has happened before in history. We're still in chartered waters. the things we do with the windfall profits, that's the chicken with the golden eggs, that's also legally very sound. We're very certain that Euroclear is now within international and financial law. But I cannot prevent anybody to launch litigation against Euroclear, or they're probably going to launch litigation against any financial institution in Europe that holds immobilized or frozen Russian assets, which is Euroclear, Clearstream, French banks, British banks, you name it. That's probably a Russian strategy, but I'm not worried about that.
So you think the risk is now lower that the reparations...
I think there is no risk. The reparation loan would have put Euroclear in uncharted and very risky, shady waters. It would have given Russia an opportunity to attack Euroclear legally. It would have given them a yellow brick road to start counter-confiscations in Russia and mobilizing our money. This is the thing I always was warning about. If you take Putin's money, the central bank money, and you give it to Ukraine, then the money's gone. You don't have it anymore. You use your leverage. You cannot use it for reparations. The money's gone. But you also might enable Putin to mobilize the same amount in counter-confiscations. He will take 17 billion of Euroclear of frozen assets immediately. And then he will start, of course, looking for other billions that he can confiscate of Western money, frozen assets in Russia, private enterprise companies, maybe jurisdictions outside Russia that are friendly to him, Belarus, China, Hong Kong, South Africa. And at the end of the day, you might notice that you have helped him. You've given his money to Ukraine, and he's taken his money back from you. You've lost 2 times. And when the war's over and Ukraine needs to be reconstructed and there's no more money, who's going to pay for that? Us again. And you've paid 3 times. And this is something I've always, from day one, very clearly warned about. Not only about the legal risk, the financial uncertainty, the uncharted waters, but also the effect that the one you want to punish might be helped by what you do. And of course, if you have the opportunity to lengthily explain all this, at the end of the day, the enthusiasm to do it was non-existing. It was not tight. It was not like 50% pro, 50% against. It was very clear. At the end of the day, the enthusiasm was zero. Zero. Yeah, go ahead with the white shirt. That's you.
Thank you very much. Jorge Valera with Bloomberg. 2 questions, please. First one, do you think that this formula to finance Ukraine, a peace deal between with Russia, is more possible by the end of the year? And secondly, if you could tell us, following up on the question of my colleague, if you could tell us in what moment you felt that the mood shifted in the room from reparations loan to this joint debt formula?
I'll start with the second question. I was never nervous or worried about this because I had 2 options. Either we could do the reparation loan, but then with a legal text that covered all the risks, or we could do the headroom solution. Both were good for me. I could have accepted the reparation loans if they would have accepted my legal text, which they didn't, for the uncapped and many other reasons. They didn't want to do it. So, okay, fine. So option B, headroom. I was the one who last month blocked the idea of going to this council with 1 option, if you remember correctly. I said, no, it has to be options plural. I want 2 options on the table. And that is why we had a plan B. So I was actually pretty sure that we would either reach an acceptable solution for plan A, the reparation loan. Okay, it couldn't be reached. I was more or less expecting that we wouldn't get there, but I had the certainty there's a plan B, so we don't have to leave the room without a solution for Ukraine and in total chaos. Your first question about the war. If there's one signal that goes out to Moscow, it is, of course, that Europe is going to finance Ukraine for the next 2 years. And maybe, I hope, this could incite Mr. Putin to stop the war. Because he hopes that we will give up and that he can crush Ukraine. He will find out tomorrow if he reads all your lovely newspapers or listens to the spies that he sent and are probably present in this room, that we have not abandoned Ukraine. We have not abandoned, and we haven't given him the opportunity for all the counter-confiscations. He cannot mobilize our money. So he loses 2 times. In my view, Putin has lost 2 times. He has no leverage on us with Euroclear, and 2, he knows now that Ukraine will be in the fight, that Europe will provide enough financial support that Ukraine can stay in the fight. So this is good news for Ukraine, bad news for Putin. We'll start here and then go to the second row.
Yes, I am Matteo Bagnoli, the National Italian News Agency. One thing that the headroom option was uncertain, it was that, as I understand, it needs unanimity.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole debate about the assets also arose because there was no unanimity. Now, clearly, there is unanimity. So what happened that magically created unanimity for this headroom?
Magically. There's no magic to politics. It's just hard work behind the screens. I'm not going to tell you all the things I do behind the screens because that's the secret of the kitchen. But if you want a certain decision, then you prepare and you talk to people. I don't think anybody was ready, willing and able to let this meeting go by without a decision, because that's disastrous for the European family. That means that there's pressure on everybody. And maybe people who certainly don't want to do the reparation loan can be convinced to be more cooperative towards Plan B. And if you talk to these people in time and you prepare them, then you can have a soft landing.
Do you think then there will be political consequences because, somebody spent a lot of political capital on Plan A?
I don't think so, no. I don't think there will be any political consequences. I think the main thing was getting the financing for Ukraine on the road. As long as the headroom option seemed to be troubled by the fact that it could be blocked, it was not illogical to go for the reparations loan. But once it became clear that the 3 countries who were not so enthusiastic, neither for the reparation loan, neither for the headroom, could be swinged to just opt out on the headroom, we had an easy landing. And again, if you more or less know your job and you prepare these things and you talk to people beforehand, then these meetings become more or less predictable as meetings with 27 people can be. But I invested a lot in talking to many people. So I was not very nervous today. I came prepared. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Thomas Malmers, Euractiv. I have a question about the impact that these events of the last few weeks have had on your relationship with your colleagues. I mean, we saw that Mette Frederiksen, the Danish Prime Minister, said in an interview, I think it was this morning or last night, that the EU should be ready to go ahead with the reparations loan, even if Belgium isn't on board with them. We know that at Coreper, Denmark was very quick to shelve the joint debt alternative. So I was wondering, do you think, has this damaged your relationship with Mette Frederiksen? And is this relationship replicable? And also with Friedrich Merz, I saw your appearance at the Parliament today, and you were making jokes about him, saying, German...
Jokes?
Yeah.
I did not make jokes about Friedrich Merz. I wouldn't dare. Which joke?
Well, the joke about the German speakers. Not all German speakers are as nice as you.
I literally said, nicht alle Deutschsprachigen sind so freundlich wie Sie, aber sie sind alle freundlich.
Okay, right. Anyway.
Should quote me completely. Das Wahre ist das Ganze, mein Freund.
But, in your view, are these relationships, have they been damaged? And if they have been damaged, can they be...
Listen, politics is not a softball game. Huh? It's hardball. And if there are big interests at stake, it can clash. And a normal politician, when he takes a decision, he lets go of all the emotions that were attached to it. For me, the reparations loan was not a good idea. I tried to get it done, so I was loyal. They asked me, please do an effort to get it done. So I negotiated the text with the Commission to make it possible. When we explained the text, there came so many questions that I said, I told you so. I told you so. There are a lot of loose ends, and if you start pulling at the loose ends and the strings, the thing collapses. And we had to go to option B. Of course, some people did not like it, because they would have preferred to have the reparation loan, because there's also a geopolitical motivation behind it. They want to punish Putin by taking his money. And I understand. And certainly countries close to Russia, who live in an animosity with Russia, found this emotionally satisfying, the idea of taking Putin's money. But politics is not about emotion, it's a rational job. And rationality has prevailed. And I think if you recognize that your opponent in a debate was rational and constructive, then you have to let go of negative emotions. Quickly. I can do it. In an instant.
Can I ask just one more question about Ukraine?
Some people think I have no emotions even. And maybe they're right.
I just have one more question about Ukraine's funding needs. I mean, the Commission itself has estimated that Ukraine needs 135 billion over the next 2 years. They're pledging to cover 2/3. I mean, are you confident that other international partners can plug the gap? And would you
But Europe is not alone. We're not alone in the financing. This is G7. We did our part. The European part, we can cover the European part. And I think we will be there. I think certainly at the IMF there will be a sigh of relief, because they are waiting for $25 billion, 20 billion in euros, and they need it in January, the green light. So we can call them tomorrow, say we will be there, because a European loan, that's chartered waters. You can do it in a few days. You have the best rating, you call the markets, the money's there. So this is good news. It's good news for Ukraine. We can really reassure them that the next 2 years the civic society of Ukraine can hold, and that they can do their military expenses. And that is, of course, of the essence. Yes, second row.
Jürgen from Debt. Following up on the questions of my colleagues, you say in the end it was a rational decision, but haven't some politicians around the table lost a big political fight, not to name Friedrich Merz and Ursula von der Leyen, who initially proposed the reparations loan. She defended it. She worked out that option in detail, and in the end it failed.
There was only one thing in this match that decides win or lose, and that is a solution for Ukraine. So in my view, it is a win. Because those who wanted the reparation loan are the ones who are most advocating financing of Ukraine. And they go home with a win. Ukraine has its money. Maybe not the way they wanted it. Maybe not the way they were pushing for. But it is in the end of the day, in my language that you also speak, you should not complain about the color of the cat. If it can catch a mouse, it is fine. And I have a cat in my office. It is grey and it does not catch mouses. Mice. But I love it anyway. Yes. No. You. Sorry. Yeah. First to stand and then we'll come to you. No. Go ahead.
It's also an important decision because it opens the door for a more general use of Eurobonds in the future.
Oh, that's a very naughty question. This is of course something that certain leaders around the table is an aspect of the solution that they might not like so much. But necessity breaks law, as they say in Dutch. The choice between that and having no solution, the lesser of two evils was chosen. It is a big amount, but for the European Union, let's be honest, it's not the end of the world. We're talking about amounts that can easily be absorbed by the European Union as a whole. The man with the flowery shirt.
So the solution is enhanced cooperation for e-borrowing with the headroom. Why hasn't it been tested before? Because you said it's hard work, but when we were talking about the EU borrowing, we were told that the solution was on the shelf and not to be used. And at the end of the day, that's the solution that's to be used. So why wasn't it tested before the enhanced cooperation?
me dit, je pense que beaucoup de partenaires autour de la table préféraient simplement de lancer l'instrument du reparation loan, que c'était une préférence politique et aussi une préférence géopolitique qu'ils ont défendue et qu'ils ont voulu éviter un emprunt commun pour la raison que votre collègue a déjà mentionnée, que ça provoque l'idée de Eurobonds, que certains pays n'aiment pas du tout. Mais à la fin, je pense que après qu'on a constaté collectivement qu'on ne peut pas avancer ou qu'on ne pourrait pas avancer avec les reparation loans, même ces pays étaient soulagés de constater qu'il n'y avait pas de blocage pour l'utilisation du headroom. Parce que ça, c'était la grande crainte, hein, l'unanimité. Il y avait 3 pays autour de la table dont on sait très bien qu'ils ne sont pas aux mêmes longueurs d'onde que les autres concernant l'Ukraine. Donc cela était un vrai danger. Donc je peux m'imaginer qu'ils avaient une vraie crainte, après la chute des reparation loans, de devoir sortir avec aucune solution pour l'Ukraine. Et je pense que tout le monde était soulagé de constater à un moment donné que M. Orban, M. Babiš et M. Fico, tous les 3 disaient presque en même temps, on va pas vous bloquer. On ne va pas vous bloquer. Si vous voulez avancer avec les headroom et organiser le financement de l'Ukraine ainsi, on va vous demander un opt-out et les jeux sont faits. Et ça, je ne vais pas dire, mais allez, j'ai un tout petit peu suggéré que quand on prépare son dossier, on parle avec des gens avant leur critique. Donc, c'est ce que je pourrais conseiller à tout le monde si on veut avoir une décision sur un point chaud et sensible. Ça vaut la peine de faire un petit tour de l'Europe et de parler à tout le monde. Voilà, c'est fait. Encore un? One more? Ah. Mais bon, allez, comme j'ai dit déjà 10 fois, la seule victoire, c'est la victoire de l'Ukraine, de l'Europe et de la stabilité financière. Ce sont les 3 grands gagnants de ce soir. Et c'est pas un match, hein, c'est un match, pas un match entre politique ou poids lourd. Je ne l'ai jamais vu comme ça. Ma crainte était aussi qu'on risquait de finir en chaos et de devoir sortir et d'avouer à vous tous qu'il n'y avait aucune solution. Donc j'ai fait de mon mieux pour préparer une solution, de parler à tout le monde pour le rendre possible, et j'ai fait de mon mieux même pour faire un texte pour permettre le reparations loan, le cas échéant, que la grande majorité aurait voulu avancer dans cette direction. Mais j'ai très vite constaté, après avoir mis le texte sur la table, que c'était très clair, le texte était très compliqué, très technique, que cette affaire est tellement compliquée, tellement risquée, tellement dangereuse, que ça provoquait tellement de questions, que c'était presque comme un bateau qui coulait, c'était le Titanic, et c'était à un moment donné simplement fini. Donc c'est pas une bataille entre chevaliers, hein, c'est un débat rationnel. Et si le résultat de ce débat rationnel est qu'à la fin, on ne peut pas avancer avec les reparation laws. Et à ce moment-là, on pose la question aux 3 récalcitrants s'ils pourraient rendre possible l'option 2 qui demande de l'unanimité. Et tous les 3 disent on est avec vous. Ah, alors les jeux sont faits, tout le monde est soulagé. Il est 2 heures du matin, ce que pour un Belge encore très tôt pour faire un accord. Je m'attendais à encore une nuit blanche et une belle partie de du prochain jour. Donc un peu, oui. Allez, 3 heures du matin pour un accord. C'est pas dans la tradition nationale. Hein. Donc, mais sans blaguer, à un moment donné, les jeux sont faits. Et c'est pas une bataille entre hommes, c'est simplement une question de ratio.
Just the last one. Do you think Ursula von der Leyen made a mistake investing so much capital in this proposal?
Mais non, pas du tout. Parce que Mme von der Leyen, elle fait ce que le Conseil lui demande de faire. Donc, si le Conseil dit, chère Mme von der Leyen, la prochaine fois, vous devez mettre à la table 2 options, ou même 3 options, plusieurs options. Elle avait fait 3, mais une option a été vite évacuée parce que personne voulait travailler avec les budgets nationaux. Donc ça, c'était vite disparu. Il y avait encore 2 options qui restaient. C'est le Conseil qui a demandé à Mme von der Leyen de travailler tout ça.
But she proposed it in the State of the Union speech without anybody asking her.
Mais
Just when she announced it.
why am I speaking French to you? That is a very good question. Do you understand French?
Yes, but
Okay.
English as well.
English is better?
Yes.
Okay, for me as well. If I'm tired, English is more or less my best second language. I think she did an excellent job. A Commission President has to sense in which direction the majority of the Council wants to go. And in this case, a great number of countries were very vocal about wanting to do the reparation loan. A large group of other countries was more or less silent. And this gave, of course, a false perception of things. Again, I've said it now 3 times, one of the reasons I wasn't nervous is because I prepare the things I do, and I did my little tour of Europe. If somebody is silent, it doesn't always mean that he agrees with you, or that he agrees with something that has been said by others. You have to, in our language, say sonderen. How do you say that in English? You have to sound out. So I did a lot of that. So I knew beforehand that the enthusiasm for reparation loans was not so big as people thought it would be. But if you are Commission President, and Germany, and the Baltic countries, and the Scandinavians, and Poland say, we want to do it next time, this is our preference, and only poor little Belgium says, ooh, I have a lot of questions, it is normal that she stresses upon the solution that is, in her perception, the most wanted solution. This started to turn when Italy, Bulgaria, and Malta also spoke out, saying we don't like it. Immediately she did, as an excellent job, saying in her articulation, she went back to the 2 options, because she saw, oh, there is division. So I have tabled the 2 options. So she did exactly what she needed to do. And today it turned out, as I knew it would, that much more countries that hadn't spoken yet were extremely critical of all the financial aspects of it. Finding out that, a simple truth, there is no free money in the world. It just does not exist. If you take money from Putin, you are exposed. You are exposed. And if you're exposed, then people like certainty. And where can you find certainty? In charted waters, using the headroom, because we've done it before. We know exactly what's going to happen. We know the amount, we know the responsibilities, and we know the timing. If you compare that to reparations loan, you know nothing about the amount. It can even be uncapped in the mutualization of the legal risk. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what counter-confiscation can hit your country. Because some countries said, oh, but I have no assets in Russia. There's no money of mine in banks frozen in Russia, and I have no companies in Russia. But then you say, okay, but what if Russia goes to court in Hong Kong or South Africa? And then people say, oh, is that possible? Of course it's possible. It's a big uncertainty. And if you explain that a legal text means that you are looking for the maximum of coverage against all those risks, people realize, oh, those risks are real. And this is why you wrote this complicated text. But if all these risks are real, then I don't like the solution. Give me the certainty, give me the thing I know, the headroom. So that was the dynamic of the meeting. It was not like a duel between fighters. It was just a rational discussion. I think I can. There's the very last one in the very last row. Okay, you are the last one, huh? Politico, you published some very nice articles with some very nice titles, claiming that I was Russia's most valuable asset. I like that one a lot. I will remember that one. But go ahead with your question anyway, because as I said, a real politician lets go of his emotions, even if these emotions are pure anger, vengeance, and maybe even violence. But go ahead.
EU policy making in the future, splitting, member states kind of in terms of policy making and going forward. The fact that obviously this was agreed only with a select number of member states. Does this have any impact on how policy making maybe also kind of?
But at the end of the day, we were unanimous, huh?
No.
The decision we took was a unanimous decision with 3 opt-outs, but even the opt-outers allowed us to take the decision. So where's the division? There's always division at the European table. This is Europe, huh? 27 countries, different interests, different public opinions, close to Russia, far from Russia. We're not all playing in the same ball game. But at the end of the day, there's a decision with unanimous support. So what's your problem?
There were still 3 opt-outs, right?
Okay. What is your title going to be?
Depends on what you say, I guess.
If it depends on what I say, then I'm going to say nothing at all. What's your problem? 3 opt-outs, we've had that before. Every time we prolong the sanctions, there's an opt-out. There's someone who's saying, okay, you can go ahead, but without my support. And we still can go ahead. We found a solution for the financing of Ukraine, and we were unanimous. 3 countries don't want to be implicated, okay, fine. But we're there. That's good, but now I have to go to my dacha in St. Petersburg, where my neighbor is Depardieu, and then across the street there is Assad. And I think I can become mayor of that little village. Maybe that could be your title.